It was the year of 2005, and we would finally see how the origin story of Darth Vader would wrap up with the release of Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. And much like the prior two films, which had video game tie-ins of their own, Revenge of the Sith also had its own video game. Two separate versions being the console versions by LucasArts and The Collective, which follows a formula not unlike EA's Lord of the Rings adaptations, the other being a handheld game developed by Ubisoft under LucasArts license. How does it fare? Let's find out. If you have seen the Revenge of the Sith film, you probably already know the plot. Anakin and Obi-Wan start off on the search for Chancellor Sheev Palpatine, being held hostage by Count Dooku and General Grievous. Anakin and Obi-Wan then duel with the fallen Jedi and escape the crumbling ship, while Grievous escapes in another ship to a Confederacy-controlled base on the planet Utapau. Eventually, Obi-Wan and Anakin go their separate ways. The Jedi Master would try and continue his fight to preserve the peace walking the light, while his apprentice would make his final steps towards the dark side. As the story turns out to be the best the prequels have to offer, the game does a pretty fine job in adapting from the movie and even adding some new sequences that does not feel out of place, such as a lightsaber duel with a then new character named Sin Drawling. As for the gameplay, while the console version is a 3D arcade-style action game, again like EA's Lord of the Rings titles, the handheld versions are instead a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up akin to games such as Capcom's Final Fight or Sega's Streets of Rage. But instead of fists and weapons to pick up, you are a Jedi, so you rely on skills with your lightsaber and the Force. Also, the story also splits into the two following branches, Obi-Wan in the light to Anakin in the dark. The gameplay itself is a simple two-face button plus shoulder button combat system, bearing in mind that the DS version is ported from the Game Boy Advance, but with an addition of very minor touchscreen controls, which help you do special moves if you don't want to press more buttons. Basically, a prerequisite of when 3DS fighting games would allow for similar, such as Street Fighter 4 or even Dead or Alive. Besides that, the DS version of the game contains an exclusive gameplay mode in where you get to pilot the Jedi Starfighter in 3D. More precisely, the ETA-2 Light Interceptor, and the gameplay of that is very similar to the classic Rogue Squadron games. It is also the only mode to feature multiplayer, which I sadly cannot show due to not having multiple DS cards to get a sibling or two to play with. Honestly, looking at this mode in particular, while I think it's a nice addition, I don't think it makes the game incomplete by not having it. Not to mention, it hasn't aged that well, considering the D-pad, which was one of the only regular control inputs on the DS, was used at the time. Granted, on the 3DS and its variants, it feels a little better, but not by a whole lot, as the circle pad is basically a cloned D-pad for regular DS games. But the main game, however, is a pretty well done beat-em-up in the Star Wars universe, and with the cool art style that kind of remind me of a lot of Star Wars comics. Not to mention, sounds great too, as the DS cartridge allows for nearly CD quality audio, as you can hear the John Williams soundtrack damn near uncompromised, while a different sound font was used on the GBA cartridge, again, limitations and all. But overall, Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith on the Nintendo DS deserves a 7 out of 10.